Welcome back to part 3 of the estate settlement tutorial. This video tutorial will cover the transfer of shares process that result from an estate settlement. As previously mentioned, the MyCapeFox Corporation video tutorials covering the estate settlements has been divided into multiple parts to better explain the process and make it easier to follow. If you missed part 1 and part 2 and would like to go back and watch, you can now view the estate settlement part 1 bereavement check and life insurance and the estate settlements part 2 transfer of shares by testamentary disposition video tutorial at the MyCapeFox link below. You will also be able to view previous tutorials there as well. As explained in part 1 and part 2, after the bereavement check has been distributed and the life claim has been submitted, shareholder services will proceed with transfer of shares. Shares in MyCapeFox Corporation may be transferred by gift, testamentary disposition, or in accordance with the Alaska statutes governing intestate succession, or as otherwise hereafter be permitted under ANCSA. This video focuses on part 3, which covers the transfer of shares by intestate succession. This video tutorial will not cover how shares in CFC may be transferred by gift or testamentary disposition. What is intestate succession? Intestate succession is a legal process for distributing shares when a shareholder walks into the force without a valid will or testamentary disposition. This distribution is determined by state laws, which establish a specific order of priorities by heirs, typically prioritizing a surviving spouse and children, followed by other close relatives. This process is quite a bit longer than shares transferred by testamentary disposition. If a shareholder in CFC walks into the forest without having completed a CFC testamentary disposition form, a last will and testament, or a holographic will, the shares will be transferred in accordance with Alaska Statute 13.16.705 or any successory statute, otherwise known as intestate succession. With regard to CFC sharing, the intestate share of a surviving spouse is all the shares of the descendant if there is no surviving issue, and 1/2 of the shares if the descendant is survived by issue. The CFC shares that do not pass to the spouse in accordance with Section 3D3 of the CFC bylaws pass in the following order to the individuals listed below who survive the decedents per Alaska Statutes 13.12.103 or any successor statute. 1. To the decedent's descendants by representation. 2. If there is no surviving descendant, to the decedent's parents equally if both survive, or to the surviving parent. 3. If there is no surviving descendant or parent, to the descendants of the decedent's parents or either of them by representation. 4. If there is no surviving descendant, parent, or descendant of a parent, but the decedents survived by one or more grandparents or descendants of grandparents, half the shares pass to the decedent's paternal grandparents equally if both survive, or to the surviving paternal grandparent, or to the descendants of the decedent's paternal grandparents, or either of them if both are deceased. The descendants taken by representation, and the other half passes to the decedent's maternal relatives in the same manner. But if there is no surviving grandparent or descendant of a grandparent on either the paternal or the maternal side, the entire amount of stock passes to the decedent's relatives on the other side in the same manner as the halves. Per the CFC bylaws, Heirs to the shares of a shareholder who has died intestate must complete and have notarized the CFC heirship affidavit, which shall include provisions for the name of the spouse, the names of any children, then the names of the parents. If no spouse, children, or parents, then the names of brothers and sisters. If no spouse, children, parents, brother, or sisters, then the names of next in line in accordance with the Alaska statute of intestate succession. To make the intestate succession process as smooth as possible, shareholder services request that the family of the deceased shareholder nominate one person to complete a CFC heirship affidavit. Shareholder services will prepare and send the CFC heirship affidavit to the person nominated by the family. That person will need to complete and have notarized the CFC heirship affidavit, as well as gathered all supporting documentation. Supporting documentation could be a marriage certificate, birth certificate, adoption decree, death certificate, etc. For example, if the deceased shareholder is married, a marriage certificate is required. Similarly, if the deceased shareholder was divorced, a divorce certificate is required. If the deceased shareholder had children or adopted children, a birth certificate for each child or an adoption decree is required. The required supporting documentation depends on how the CFC heirship affidavit was completed. Once the CFC heirship affidavit has been completed and notarized, and all supporting documentation is gathered, please submit to shareholder services via USPS to CapeFox Corporation. Attention shareholder services. P.O. Box 8558, Ketchikan, Alaska 99901. The CFC heirship affidavit may also be submitted via fax to 1-907-225-3137 or submitted in person at the Joseph C. Williams Sr. Building located at 2851 South Tongass Highway, Ketchikan, Alaska 99901. Because the CFC heirship affidavit must be notarized, the form must be submitted either in person, by mail, or fax. Shareholder services will then intake the CFC heirship affidavit to make sure everything is complete, fully executed, and notarized. Shareholder services will also make sure all required supporting documentation is received. If any part of the CFC heirship affidavit is incomplete or any required supporting documentation is missing, shareholder services will work with the nominated family member until the CFC heirship affidavit is completed and all supporting documentation is received. If the CFC heirship affidavit is complete, fully executed, and notarized, and all required documentation is received, shareholder services will prepare a CFC resolution to include the heirs of the deceased shareholder and how many shares each heir will receive. Shareholder services will then submit the CFC resolution to the CFC Board of Directors to be considered at their next regularly scheduled meeting. If the CFC Board of Directors approves the resolution, shareholder services will prepare and mail the necessary transfer of shares documentation to the appropriate people. The necessary transfer of shares documentation can vary for each person depending on whether they are a new shareholder or an existing shareholder. Shareholder services can assist in determining which documents are necessary for you. Shareholder services will not transfer shares until all the necessary transfer of shares documentation is received. This concludes part 3 of the estate settlement process. which covered the transfer of shares by intestate succession. Whether you are currently going through the estate settlement process or planning for the future, we hope this video tutorial guides you through this difficult process. Thank you for watching, and please feel free to reach out to Shareholder Services for any additional questions or assistance. Thank you.